Welcome to the FPL USA Press Play Podcast. I'm Bucks, joined by my co-host, top 1,000 finisher from last season, Brian. How the hell are you, man?
My goodness, you're shouting from the rooftops. You're going to wake your whole family up there in the East Coast in New York. Good to see you, Bucks.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to be back. I'm really excited to be recording, and we are officially back. The FPL game has launched. It's been live for over 24 hours now. I've already made at least 6 initial drafts. Brian, Have you set a team yet? You have a squad together, or you just did the auto pick for the low number?
Yeah, neither of those. I got a high number because I woke up on the West Coast and was working and then just forgot about FPL going live. And then, I've just been slam-bonied with work lately. So I have not made a draft. I have looked at a few player prices, but mainly just trying to keep track of the new rules. And are you still with us, Bucks? No earthquakes over there in the East Coast, I hope. My goodness.
You know, when you record from your kitchen, sometimes the kid's lunchbox tends to shift when you're yelling so hard at the microphone. So that may or may not be what just happened. Or, my 100-year-old co-op might be crumbling to the ground. It's one of the two for sure.
It's a beautiful brownstone. I'm a fan. I've been years before, so hopefully it stays intact. But you're outgrowing that, man. You got a family of 5 now. It's almost time for the upgrade.
Yeah, I was going to see if baby Jordan could stay awake for his podcast debut. Unfortunately, my boss and beautiful wife decided against it, which was the best move because now all 3 of my kids are nice and fast asleep. That way we could be raucous. And it is a time to celebrate because the game that we love, the hobby we invest so many hours in, has finally returned. And I think it's kind of dueling narrative season. You could either be ecstatic and elated like I am, almost more or less about everything, or you could be posting online about how the game is gone because there have been a rash of new rules that have made their appearance in the game. And I think a lot of hardcore managers are pretty, hot and bothered about some of the changes that we're going to see this coming season.
Yeah, very interesting changes to the FPL game as we know it. Last year they introduced the new rule that you could roll transfers. You get a transfer in and out of your wild card and free hit. So all that stuff made a lot of sense. And then they went too far. They brought in the ass man chip, which was OP. It was overpowered and, just made it very convoluted to play. And so, they take feedback. They bring in Mark Southerns, the godfather of FPL. Fantasy football scout legend. He leaves FPL Black Box and joins FPL Towers. And they took on a good amount of his desires to update the game, make a few changes. But then somebody went rogue. Somebody blackmailed somebody to add in even more changes, not only to the scoring, not only to the chips, but then an AFCON free auto top-up. So we got a lot to cover today. We're going to keep this about half an hour with our initial reactions to FPL being live. And then, Bucks, our favorite positional series will continue in the offseason. I can't wait to dive into each of those episodes as we preview each of the player points in terms of prices and price brackets. And we'll do that for each of the positions coming up this offseason.
Yeah, brilliant. Let's first take a step back. I know this episode is going to be kind of our initial reaction to the game launch. Again, we've taken at least a brief look over pricing and the new rules. And so we're going to share some of those insights and our perspective, some hot snakes, maybe some earthquakes from our point of view with our listeners. But before then, at the start of every season, I think it just makes a lot of sense to take a half step back and let's introduce ourselves. Let's introduce our program and kind of give at least, 15 seconds on what the FPL USA Press Play Podcast is all about. I'll give you the floor, right. Brian. You were the best manager by a country mile last season on our program. Best ever finish for any of the co-hosts with a triple-digit rank out of over 11 million players. So a little golf clap to you, my friend. Well-deserved. Introduce yourself. Tell the listeners a little bit about who you are, and then I'll go next.
Yeah, right on, man. This is the 3rd season of the FPL USA Press Play Podcast. We're super excited to be hosting another 40, 50 episodes coming up this year as we dive into all things FPL. Tons of game week previews. We're going to be doing more actively on social and on kind of the reels and shorts and stuff like that. So you'll see a lot more of our faces as we learn to navigate YouTube and try and grow our following there. But with the excellent, immaculate vibes of the World Cup coming to North America in 2026, we're really trying to pave the way for not only the great voices in the content creator community across the FPL game, but really doubling down on a lot of our talents here in the States, where we have a growing community of hashtag FPL USA. So I would say, Bucks, what would we say? When we started this podcast, we wanted it to be very conversational. You're not going to see charts and data from us. It's going to be a lot of vibe checks. And basically, the mantra is, if you and I were sitting at the bar, I'd be out drinking you. But then I would also be talking shit about a number of different players and complaining about my fantasy score. So that's kind of where I would say we are with the podcast.
Yeah, agreed. And again, Brian, just life update. I know you just had your first kid in a beautiful new home in California, and you have a dedicated podcast recording space, which I think is going to get some new swag joining us in episodes to come. So, I felt a little bit of FOMO there. So you could see my makeshift podcast studio here in my lovely kitchen here in Brooklyn. I got 2 of my favorite Chelsea jerseys hanging up behind me. And yeah, I think kind of short and sweet version of what this podcast is all about is we are 2 addicted sports fans. We love the Premier League. And so this podcast is all about deepening our love of the beautiful game in the Premier League through the fantasy game of FPL. And, it's good natured. Sometimes there's going to be some explicit content. And it's just like, if you were chatting with your friends, with some of your rivals of other clubs that are against the team that you support, what would the conversation look like? And that's what it's all about. We're here to have fun, a lot more of just entertainment as opposed to deep dives into the analytics or the numbers or the models. And again, what we want to do is just give our own unique perspective being here on the States. I have it relatively easy. Despite having 3 kids, all of them will be awake for pretty much every deadline because I'm based on the East Coast in Brooklyn. Brian, you have alternative set of problems being based in California on the West Coast. But again, it just shows that this FPL game, it's really for everyone. You don't have to be an expert to have a top score. And, if you want to deepen your love of the beautiful game of football or soccer, whatever the hell you call kicking that round ball into a goal, this game could be there for you to really get and turbocharge your love of the game before the 2026 World Cup. So we're here to kind of be one pillar to up people's engagement on the sport we love.
Yeah, that's right. And there's been so much player movement in the offseason. We can't wait to cover a lot of the new signings, especially when we go through those positional previews. I'm coming off my best season ever. Like you said, Bucks 533rd in the world.
Incredible.
Yeah, absolute dream season. Just had my first child right after that. So it was a great kind of season full of a lot of luck and a lot of blessings. So I'm hoping, top 10K now is the goal this year. We go again. And really excited that, the game launched really late this year. We have football in like 3 weeks.
We got a lot of work to do this month. And
that's right.
It's funny that you bring that up because, despite your top finish, I mean, being inside the top 1K is absurdly good for a whole campaign. And yet you didn't win our free to enter podcast mini league. So I do want to just quickly shout that out before we transition to talk about the game launch itself. We do a free to enter global podcast league. So if you are playing FPL and you want to just have a community built in without any work, any investment, join our podcast mini league. There will be weekly shout outs for the top score. We will list some of the managers that are absolutely smoking it in every episode that we have for top scores, friends that went rogue with captaincy selection. And then at the end of the season, we send out a free Premier League kit of the winner's choosing wherever you are in the world. So this year, it is going to be a Liverpool home Mo Salah kit, is going all the way out to the Netherlands to our winner from last season, who finished 23rd in the world. So
Ooh.
we all got to sharpen our pencils a little bit and make sure that our tinker fingers are well rested going into game week 1 so that we have a chance of competing to win the kit this season. Ain't that the truth?
Yeah, that's right. And we are looking to grow our league across the globe. So we will be posting on social with ways to access that. All you have to do is follow us on social on either Instagram or on YouTube, preferably, and then X. And then we will post that. And we've sent out jerseys across the world to our top followers. So appreciate you guys being along on this ride with us.
All right, let's take our first break on podcast platforms. When we come back, let's dive into some of the changes and our reaction to them going into next season, 25-26 FPL.
And we are back,
Ooh,
Bucks.
ooh.
We've gotten the housekeeping out of the way. Let's take some time to walk through some of the rules in case you have not brushed up on them. There's a lot of changes. This is going to be a very different game. So where do you want to start? We have so much to cover.
Yeah, let's start with the chips. I think the power-ups are always the easiest to understand. And if you played Mario Kart as a kid, you know what it's like to run through that kind of question mark box and get a special power. And FPL is no different, hooked right into the dopamine receptors. This season, as opposed to having 2 wild cards and one of the other 3 chips, we will be getting 2 full sets of chips. That is a massive change. I think there's going to be a first half set of 4 chips. That will be the wild card, bench boost, free hit, and triple captaincy. And then you'll have all 4 of those chips to use once again in the second half of the season. Now, just from a dumb it down perspective, this means that there's going to be a lot more movement from transfers for managers' squads, and also probably does mean there's going to be a much higher points threshold for the end of this season. So I know, records have been broken in the past with like high 2,000 point seasons. I don't think it's crazy to think that we could see our first 3,000 point season based on some of these changes, specifically around the power-ups. You like it?
Yeah.
You hate it? What's your feel?
Yeah, there's so many changes to the scoring. So I would say that when you're looking at historical anecdotes of like, here's where number 1 in the world finished 5 years ago.
Yeah.
There's just so many different changes with the chips and the scoring. So you can kind of throw that out the window. But overall, I'm a fan of this. It makes the casual fan of the Premier League and an FPL player probably gives them more chances to engage with the game and feel like they don't have to be on X or on Reddit or scouring forums every single week to kind of keep up with the actual game. And the hardcore fans are going to have to really just live with the variance. I think because we're going to see so many managers using chips in single game weeks, the variance of you playing your triple captain and getting a 2-point plank versus somebody getting a 17 pointer is much larger. And so
Yeah, great
I think
point.
that's going to be very interesting to see. So I think when you're looking at your first half rank for 0 game week 1 through 19, once you end that first half and all those chips get reset, that's kind of where your barometer is for how your season has started. So I think it'll be very interesting to see kind of the ins and outs of that. My initial take was, I'm down for this. It's fun to have multiple chips. I will be 100% bench boosting in game week 1. I know that was a talk of the town towards the end of last season because a lot of bench boosts got 5 to 15 points. Like, it's the worst chip out of the lot, but being able to not only have an extra wild card, just an extra set of chips, and then we're going to talk about the extra transfers that we're going to get topped up with when players go to AFCON. I'm just excited to get that out of the way for game week 1 and then save my bench boost for a double game week later on in the season.
Yeah, love it. I think going to be a lot more diversity of strategy. So I think this is going to be good for casuals and also good for the hardcore players. I think we're just going to see a lot more points and a lot more individual game styles, which I think is only good for the FPL game. Not everyone should be playing the same strategy as your favorite podcast host.
Yeah, I would say it is pretty crazy though that you're going to essentially be using a chip in about a fourth of the game weeks. Yeah, that just about. So it's going to be very interesting to see when you're looking at your mini league and your mini league rivals. somebody might spike their free hit on a random single game week and score 50 more points than your crappy team. So that is going to be really interesting. Obviously, we've always talked about in this podcast that it's a marathon and that you really have to stay the course and try and grind away. But with this different play style that is going to be enlisted with the chips, yeah, it's going to be some FOMO for sure, because especially when you're scouring Twitter and you see all these people like deciding to activate the chip because there's 5 good fixtures for the top 5 teams in the leagues, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out. But overall, it's going to be more variance and more points.
Yeah. And I think related to this first one, it's the sunsetting of the Ass Man chip. This was a concept brought
Good
in.
riddance.
Yeah. In the second half of last season, I agree with you there. Making FPL managers have to bring in a coach that was then awarded with points based on their team's performance. I think that was always kind of a convoluted idea. It then also required you to have banked transfers and budget. So hasta la vista, the best view of the backside is often when someone is walking away. So we will just take one last look at the peach bottom of the Ass Man and never to see them again, hopefully in the FPL game.
That's right.
Amen.
See you never. See you never. I mean, we both got decent amount of points. I got way less points than most managers, and I still managed a top 600k or 600 finish. So it was an interesting
even I was in the top 600k.
Barely.
Dick. All right,
man.
Keeping it moving.
Yeah, see you later.
More assists. The rule has gone to expand the amount of leniency on awarding assists. I think none has historically been like one of the top 10 assist providers in the FPL game in seasons past. So we're just going to broaden the definition of what an assist is. If you are the last attacking player to touch the ball, we're not going to be doing some voodoo interpretation of whether it was intentional or not, or whether it was meant to be a shot that was then deflected. You're just going to get the assist points. Again, I think that's just more clarity on, watching the game and saying like, oh, my player was the one who was the pass that led to the goal. You're going to get the assist points. You're not going to be like guessing or checking 2 nights later to see if the assist actually was registered in the game. So I also think this is a positive improvement from FPL Towers. So I want to give them their kudos here for sure.
Yeah, it just means that a lot of players who really had high XAs last year, but kind of got screwed in a few different scenarios where a defender barely toes it out of the direction of the pass, that they will still get that assist. And I think that, yeah, I mean, if we're going to base this off of Opta, it's just more fun to have more assists and have players getting those crucial actions, because there's only so many goals in some of these matches, right? And to take away one of the crucial actions of the game, it seems very cruel. So I'm a big fan of that one too.
All right, let's keep it on the positive. Let's go to defensive actions. So this is a new rule. It's a totally different concept that I think they're pulling primarily from some of the UEFA fantasy games, which is basically expanding the pool of players to defensive midfielders, to center backs, basically to capture all the value creating actions in the course of a soccer game or in the course of a match. And I think this is really great. Of course, this means that a player like Moises Caicedo, like Andre Gomez from Wolves, like Bruno Guimaraes from Newcastle, all of a sudden, they might have instant FPL value as kind of a fifth midfield enabler, because if you can get a clean sheet and then 2 extra points for defensive actions every match, all of a sudden it's not a 3 or 5 pointer. You might be getting bonus points and a 7 pointer. So I think this is a really good idea. I think this is the one which is going to primarily benefit the kind of most engaged managers, because those are the ones that are going to do the legwork to research what players are actually doing all these defensive contributions. But again, I think anything that broadens the player field and that gives FPL managers more points, that's more fun in my book. So I like this move.
Yeah, overall, my thoughts are that we are going to see a higher floor for players like center backs and DMs in really tough fixtures, because they do
good point.
a lot of the C-Bert actions. So we're talking about clearances, blocks, interceptions, recoveries, and tackles. So you'll hear us say CBIT and CBERT on this podcast, just referring to that. So what I did like as well is they capped it. So you have to get a total of 10 of those actions if you're a defender for CBIT to get 2 points max. So that's the main difference between like UCL where it's
Yeah,
uncapped.
but
Where you could
it's
have
let me
you
just
could have
interrupt you because the bonus point system also changed. So you could
yeah. I
get
mean,
2
but
points
the
raw, but then if if you look at it when, you have the enhancements, you have your steroids in, you have, the lube on, you can even get an additional, 1 to 3 points from the bonus system, depending on, what else you did outside of those defensive actions.
yeah, I'm thinking this is going to have the most effect on players who are on the fringes of your lineup, but have a tough fixture, and they're not going to be on schedule for bonus, but they're going to have that higher floor. So even if it's a match where Everton is playing Man City, a player like Tarkowski is going to easily get his 10 CBIT, and that will put him in position to at least maybe get a 3 or 4 pointer, which
Yeah, great
is
point.
solid. So I think as well as we're looking at some of the fifth kind of midfielders in your team, you might be more apt to choose a midfielder that is a DM on a shakier team, but you can easily get 4 or 5 pointer in those spots for kind of that bench auto sub. So I think overall it's interesting. Let's also again highlight for midfielders and strikers, they get points for recoveries as well. So players who press, who put in a good shift. I was really thinking about somebody like Kai Havertz, who is pretty active on the press. He's going to get rewarded for actually sprinting around and helping his team on the
Yeah,
defensive
love
end.
it.
But with that being said, I don't know, our striker to get 10 of those actions, that's a lot of hustling. So I'm very curious to see how often that plays. I don't think it will come into effect too much, but it's cool to see other players in the mix that could be in our fantasy sides.
Yeah, great shout on the midfielders and attackers explaining it in detail, Brian. I love that. Let's go to 2 more positives before we switch to maybe one of the negatives we're calling out. Let's go to bonus point changes. I think the rules of that have always
Yes.
been very cryptic. We will refer to that often as BPS. Sometimes we'll say bonus points, but all you
Bones.
need to know for now is that goal line clearances have skyrocketed in importance for defenders. So it used to be that was like 3 or 6 points. Now it's like 12. I mean, it's like really increased in value. So,
Should
for
be too. I mean,
example,
it's a breathtaking action when you watch a goal line clearance out of nowhere and see somebody sprinting, from their position, clearing a ball off the line, saving the goalkeeper's ass. Like it's one of those moments of like,
it
what
swings
if that goal
matches. I
would have
mean, it
just
has
went in? Yeah.
tremendous impact in real life. So it should also be recognized in FPL. Totally agree with there.
And I think
And
I saw a
then,
stat where like the player with the most goal line clearances last season like had 3. So that's one every 13 matches. So it's not a very common occurrence either. So whereas like somebody who takes penalties, which is another one of the bonus point changes, that happens much more commonly. So I like that they're trying to award some of the defenders because last year defenders barely cracked 150 points. Trent's obviously gone. The defensive prices for those players have gone way down. So they're trying to balance the kind of the power between the different positions and hopefully have more players that are relevant for us this season.
well, just where my mind went to, if a penalty kick gets saved by the goalkeeper, it's almost a guarantee that they get the 3 bonus points, even if they lose. And I think goal line clearance pretty much has the same impact on the match that does, saving a penalty. So I think it makes a lot of sense that those go hand in hand. And then speaking of penalties, penalty kick goal scored has diminished importance from a bonus points perspective. And also the player that earns the penalty, whether it's converted or not, will get some bonus points consideration for just drawing that penalty. So I think those all make a lot of sense. And yeah, again, it's just an added wrinkle into the game so that more of the stuff that matters to the actual result of the match are being translated into the FPL game that we love. So I think overall bonus points, defensive actions, the assist change, and the additional chips, we're all gung-ho about. Now, there is one thing that we do have stick in our craw about, and that is the AFCON mini wildcard. So it was announced that there will be every manager in game week 15 will be topped up to 5 free transfers, the maximum possible. Now, this is exciting for me because it will probably be the first and only time I will get to 5 free transfers.
I did think about you. I did think about you when this news came down. I'm like, you're gonna unlock an achievement right there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, put a gold star on my journal because I'll finally get that achievement.
Patience is not one of your virtues from last season, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's never been. I'm a little bit ADHD in that regard, but I think
give me that shot of dopamine straight to the veins, right, Bucks? That's where that's where you're going Bucks wild, and now they're giving you a get out of jail free card. You can go as Bucks wild as you want. You could have 0 transfers after game week 15, and they're going to top you up with 5 bleeping transfers.
Yeah.
Why? Why? It takes out so much
There's only
strategy.
like 10 players in the Premier League that are going to go to AFCON. It's completely bizarre behavior. And especially with the ability to roll up to 5 free transfers, this just seems completely unnecessary, especially with all the added chips we're getting. But again, I think, probably entering into that kind of festive fixture pileup period, which is around game week 18, is when a lot of managers fall off. The deadlines come fast and furious. There's matches pretty much every day for the month of December. And, if you're not having a great season or kind of your team, if you root for Wolves like our co-host Black Wolf does, it's easy to start looking elsewhere at the, snowfall or the beautiful sights outside your window and forget to check the FPL app. So I think this is a way to kind of, hook people back in. But I definitely think this is going to have a major impact on benefiting casuals as opposed to the hardest core of the FPL managers. So this one I don't like as much because it feels like it's benefiting a segment of the players more than others. Do you agree with that?
Look, one of my key takeaways from my season last year was practicing patience and rolling transfers, right? So I'm really going to try and use this opportunity that they're giving us 5 free transfers to really stack those up for a long period of time. I don't see myself probably making more than a couple changes from the AFCON players. Mo Salah is the main one. I don't know if Bumo or Caicedo or any of those players are going to be in my team.
Caicedo's from South America.
Oh, Caicedo, not Caicedo. Who am I thinking of?
And Bomo, Vissa, you got Salah.
Nori, yeah,
Kudus. But the list isn't that long. It's like they're really only a handful of FPL.
Is there also the Asian Cup? Is that happening at the same time? Like I see nothing about that because the last 2 years ago
we only care about the AFCON players. The Asia.
Sunny boy.
Asia, Australia, and all the guys traveling to like Brazil and Argentina for the international friendlies. Go fuck yourself. That's what FPL Towers is telling you.
Yeah. My goodness. So it's just a weird thing. I'm going to try and use it to my benefit and really stack those transfers for quite some time. And I think that was part of the period of the season last year where I basically had 5 free transfers when other people were taking hits, and just using that as like, this is my edge, this is my tactical advantage through a couple key moments. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we got double game weeks announced or whatever, and all of a sudden I was like, no problem, I got 4 free transfers, I got 5 free transfers, and that really helped separate me because I didn't have to use my free hit or something like that. So I just don't understand. It takes so much of the decision tree and your mapping and your planning just out the window, and we already have all the extra chips. So I just don't like it at all. So I don't understand what the appeal is here. I think it'd be different if it was like the Euros, where you have so many more European players in
of course.
the Premier League. This AFCON thing, get the fuck out of here with this. I'm not a fan of it.
Listen, surprising. I love AFCON. I think it's a great tournament, but this for rule FPL, change just seems exceedingly surplus to requirements. So I think it's unnecessary. The extra chips go far enough to kind of make the game more variable and make strategies more dynamic. This AFCON thing, I think it ends up making it so that you're either going to bench boost game week 1, bench boost after whenever you use your wild card, or you're going to bench boost in game week 16 after you use 5 free transfers in game week 15. So it's just very, very unnecessary from where I sit. let's
Yeah.
close
I
out.
mean,
I just want to give
even
FPL Towers
even
one last set of flowers. I'm not sure if you've dove into the pricing at all, but I really think for the second season in a row, they absolutely smashed it. You look at setting up a team with 100 million budget. You got the most expensive player is Mo Salah, deservedly so. The king is back on his throne at 14.5 million. And then right behind him is Erling Haaland at 14 million. And it's important to note that because they've also at the same time reduced the highest priced defender to 6 million. So all of a sudden, with the increased player pool and kind of the decreased pricing for defenders, you know, I think we're going to see a lot of very different teams at the start of this season, especially those that are going to use chips like you on Bench Boost. I mean, I think, game week 1 is going to be crazy. I can just imagine looking at the mini leagues, and you're going to have players that are, getting into like close to 100. And then all the way at the flip side, you're going to have players that, kind of missed the mark with their captain. They're sat on like 30 or 40 points. So it's going to be a pretty awesome and cruel way to start the season, depending on what side of the coin you land on.
Yeah, and the bench boost in game week 1 is just so fun, right? Like you're picking.
I've done it. It was great.
Yeah, essentially wild carding in from your game week 1 team, and then you're going to be watching all the matches for the first time in months, and then you're going to get 15 players. Fingers crossed. Obviously, there's the Barco outlier.
Yeah, risky.
Some of those players in Kunku playing 10 minutes, but yeah, I will definitely be going with a more conservative approach on my game week 1 bench boost in terms of those players who are kind of the 4.5 million pound route, like Ezri Konsa, for example. Great player, 4.5 million again this year. I think that's a player who is like locked for my bench boost, because even if I don't have to call on him very often, at least he's there and he's steady and cheap. Whereas taking a risk on a fullback who's 5 or 5.5, it's just like a different set of circumstances. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But yeah, I agree. The pricing, I think, when you're looking at those second tier premiums of Isak and the likes of Palmer being 10.5 each, then you're going to go down to
like
Saka
Saka
at 10.
Yeah.
Yep. And then there are tons of players in that 6.5 to 8.5 million pound tier. I think they did screw up Verts being pretty cheap at 8.5. Like the double up with him and Salah is definitely something that a lot of, Liverpudlian fans are going to be doing. But yeah, I think overall, I'm pretty stoked about it. And the format that worked last year and the formation of going for like that 3-5-2, like that was key, or 3-4-3. I think that sticks around this season, but your bench guys that you're looking to have, on the squad, getting kind of a couple 4.5 million pound gems of your defenders that are going to get CBIT. Man, I think it's we're going to see a lot higher scores in the bench boost this year for the first time.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see a lot more bench jam this season. We're going to be seeing posts on social where it's like, oh man, anyone have worse points on their bench? And it's going to be like, 8 Nori because they're playing like Liverpool. And then it's going to be, there's next to some random defender from Brighton, and then you have like a midfielder who all of a sudden came in and had an assist and got the full Seabert points.
Yep, that's right.
So I think it's going to be extra swingy, and that's what we're all here for. Again, the FPL game is meant to enhance your joy of watching soccer, football, whatever you call it. I love watching it in the Premier League version. It is the best league in the world, and it's only getting stronger with the amount of new signings that have come in this summer window. I think with that, let's close it up. Let's tell the listeners where they can find us. Just know we're going to be coming back into your airwaves very soon. The way that we operate our preseason is we break down the positions. So we'll first go through goalkeepers and defenders. We'll go price bracket by price bracket, letting you know players we like, their upside, maybe if they're even should be considered in your team whatsoever. Then we'll do midfielders and forwards. Those tend to be our longest episodes of the season, but it's almost like, studying directly from the syllabus with the cheat sheet right next to you. So I think it's a great thing to dive into, set aside some time, maybe when you are on break or have your kid's napping, and you have the FPL app in front of you, just tinkering away on what your team looks like. So
Yeah,
a
that's
lot
right.
more content to come.
It's
But
definitely one of our most watched and listened to episodes of the year as we kind of set the scene. Bucks and I are big eye test folks, so I think that's a big part of kind of our analysis. And then, we have a lot of people across the FPL community, thankfully, doing a lot of the kind of deep dives into how these new rule changes are really kind of up leveling
amen.
certain players. So we're going to do a little bit of our research with the FPL community and prepare for those pods. But yeah, we can't wait to be back on the airwaves. So follow us on tons of different platforms, but especially on YouTube. We're trying to grow that this season. I'm going to be hanging up some cool memorabilia behind me from my winnings of last year, and then we are going to be doing shorts and some other cool stuff. So please follow us at FPL USA. Press play on YouTube, on X, on Instagram, on TikTok, and wherever else you listen to podcasts.
Yeah, and I think again, you're very excited that I'm going to be doing most of the legwork organizing those positional breakdowns as you get some well-deserved sleep in with your newborn. I'll be on vacation just crunching the tape for De Cupper, who's coming in for Brighton. I'll be
4.5
watching
mil.
Yeah. Lucky me. I get to watch all the Aaron Wan-Bissaka take from the second half of last season. This is the sickos that you're dealing with here on this podcast.
He's a lock in my bench boost game week 1. Let me tell you that. Oh my
goodness, so many locks, and you haven't even set your first lineup. I can't wait to see it in a group chat. I think with that, I'm FPL USA Bucks on X. Brian, the better manager on the podcast last season, but we're all tied for rank number 1 going into this season. And also just want to, before Brian closes us out, I do want to mention for our listeners who have followed us for seasons past, Dan, aka FPL_Black Wolf, a huge personality on X and social. He is going to be coming back to the podcast. He is kind of through the darkest part of his health scare. So he's really excited to be back joining us for Game Week 1 preview. We're thrilled to have him back in good health and back involved with the FPL USA community. So we're stoked on that.
Yeah, that's right. He's going to be guest hosting more often this season, but we're expecting him to be on 10 to 15 episodes, but he's going to also be helping us line up some fantastic guests throughout the FPL community. So we're looking forward to that, and happy tinkering, Bucks.
Yeah, can't wait. My thumbs are already starting to get a little bruised and calloused over here, but it's all for good reason.